What if I told you that the difference between living in terror and living in triumph isn't found in changing your circumstances, but in changing one single word in your vocabulary? Right now, someone is facing seemingly impossible odds, surrounded by enemies who want to destroy them, feeling completely overwhelmed by forces beyond their control. They're experiencing what psychologists call learned helplessness, the belief that no matter what they do, they cannot escape their situation. But hidden in an ancient song written by a man running for his life is a psychological discovery so powerful that it can instantly transform paralyzing fear into unshakable confidence. King David wrote Psalm 56 while hiding among Israel's enemies, pretending to be insane to save his life. Yet this psalm contains one phrase repeated 4 times that completely revolutionized his mindset and has been changing lives for over 3,000 years. In the next few minutes, you're about to discover the single most powerful sentence for overcoming fear that has ever been written, why repetition is the key to rewiring anxious thoughts, and how mastering this ancient technique can give you psychological immunity to intimidation tactics. Welcome back to Learning English Through Bible, where we discover that the most sophisticated psychology and the most advanced English language patterns are often found in the oldest texts on earth. Today we're diving into Psalm 56, and I need to tell you something incredible. This psalm is actually a masterclass in cognitive behavioral therapy written 3,000 years before CBT was invented. David uses repetition, reframing, and evidence-based reasoning in ways that modern therapists teach their patients today. But here's what makes this absolutely perfect for English learners. David demonstrates advanced techniques for expressing fear, building arguments, and declaring confidence using some of the most powerful sentence structures in the English language. If you want to understand how native speakers use repetition for emphasis, how to build logical arguments, and how to express unwavering determination, you've found gold. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. You're about to learn psychological techniques and English patterns that will transform how you handle pressure situations for the rest of your life. The background story of Psalm 56 is absolutely wild. David is on the run from King Saul and makes the desperate decision to seek refuge with the Philistines, Israel's enemies. He goes to King Achish of Gath, but the Philistines recognize him as the David who killed Goliath and won battles against them. Suddenly, David realizes he's jumped from the frying pan into the fire. So what does he do? He pretends to be insane. He scratches on doors, lets saliva run down his beard, acts like a madman until King Achish says, "Why bring me a lunatic?" and throws him out. David escapes, but the experience of being surrounded by enemies, having to fake insanity to survive, and realizing how close he came to death traumatizes him completely. Psalm 56 is his processing of this terrifying experience, and it becomes a blueprint for turning terror into triumph. The psalm opens with raw honesty about fear. "Be merciful to me, my God, for my enemies are in hot pursuit." All day long they press their attack. Notice the phrase "in hot pursuit." This isn't casual opposition, this is predatory hunting. The imagery suggests animals chasing prey, urgent, relentless, deadly serious. All day long, they press their attack shows the exhausting nature of sustained persecution. The phrase "press their attack" is military language. It means to advance aggressively, to push forward despite resistance. For English learners, This demonstrates how to express being under constant pressure using vivid, physical language that makes abstract stress feel concrete and understandable. David continues, "Many are attacking me in their pride." The word many is psychologically significant when you're under attack. It always feels like everyone is against you, like the opposition is overwhelming. In their pride suggests his enemies aren't just fighting strategically, they're enjoying it. They feel superior. They think victory is guaranteed. This teaches English learners advanced vocabulary for describing not just what people do, but their emotional motivation for doing it. Understanding the difference between fighting someone who's desperate versus someone who's proud changes everything about how you respond to conflict. Then comes the first occurrence of the Psalm's most famous phrase, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in God." This sentence structure is absolutely brilliant. When I am afraid, David doesn't say if I get afraid or I'm never afraid. He acknowledges that fear is inevitable. It's going to happen. It's part of the human experience. But then I put my trust in God. The verb tense is crucial here. Not I will put future or I have put past, I put is present simple, indicating habitual action. This teaches English learners how to express regular, repeated responses to situations. David is saying, every time fear comes, this is what I do. The next verse escalates the declaration, "In God whose word I praise, in God I trust, and am not afraid. What can mere mortals do to me?" This is cognitive behavioral therapy at its finest. David is using what psychologists call reframing, changing how he thinks about the situation. Instead of focusing on his enemy's power, he focuses on God's word and character. The phrase mere mortals is devastating to the opposition. It reduces them from terrifying threats to limited, temporary beings. The question, "What can mere mortals do to me?" isn't asking for information. It's a rhetorical question designed to minimize his enemy's apparent power. David then describes his enemy's tactics. "All day long they twist my words. All their schemes are for my ruin. They conspire, they lurk, they watch my steps, hoping to take my life." Notice the progression. Twisting words, making schemes, conspiring, lurking, watching, hoping to kill. This is a complete description of psychological warfare followed by physical threat. Twist my words shows how enemies use your own statements against you. Lurk suggests hidden, predatory behavior. Watch my steps indicates constant surveillance. This vocabulary teaches English learners how to describe different levels of threat and persecution using precise, escalating language. Here comes David's prayer for justice. "Because of their wickedness, do not let them escape. In your anger, God, bring the nations down." The phrase "do not let them escape" suggests that justice is inevitable. The question is just timing. "Bring the nations down" shows the scope of David's opposition. This isn't just personal enemies. This is institutional, national-level persecution. For English learners, this demonstrates how to make formal requests using imperative mood while showing respect for the authority you're addressing. Then David makes one of the most beautiful statements in the entire Bible. "Record my misery. List my tears in your scroll. Are they not in your record?" The metaphor of God keeping records of human suffering is incredibly comforting. "List my tears in your scroll" suggests that every tear matters, every moment of pain is documented, nothing is forgotten or dismissed. The phrase, "are they not in your record?" is a rhetorical question expressing confidence that God is indeed paying attention to his suffering. This teaches advanced English learners how to express the feeling that someone cares about your pain using metaphorical language. The Psalm's turning point comes with this declaration: "Then my enemies will turn back when I call for help. By this I will know that God is for me." The logic here is beautiful. David isn't asking for a sign that God exists or that God is powerful. He's asking for confirmation that God is for me on his side, supporting his cause. The phrase, "by this I will know," shows how to express evidence-based confidence in English. David is essentially saying, when my enemies retreat, that will be proof that I have divine support. Now comes the second repetition of the key phrase, but with a crucial addition: "In God, whose word I praise, in the Lord, whose word I praise, in God I trust, and am not afraid. What can man do to me?" Notice that David has added "in the Lord" to his declaration, making it even more emphatic. The repetition of "whose word I praise" twice creates what English teachers call parallel structure for maximum impact. This shows English learners how repetition with slight variation can intensify meaning and emotional impact. David concludes with gratitude and commitment. "I am under vows to you, my God. I will present my thank offerings to you." A vow is a sacred promise, usually made during desperate times. David is saying that when he was terrified and surrounded by enemies, he made promises to God, and now he's going to keep those promises. Thank offerings weren't required by law. They were voluntary expressions of gratitude. This teaches English learners about different types of commitments and expressions of appreciation. The final verse is pure triumph. "For you have delivered me from death and my feet from stumbling, that I may walk before God in the light of life." The phrase "delivered me from death" is past perfect tense, indicating completed action with continuing effects. "My feet from stumbling" suggests not just physical safety, but stability, sure footing, confidence in movement. Walk before God in the light of life is beautiful imagery, instead of hiding in caves or pretending to be insane. David now walks openly, confidently, in full visibility of divine approval. What makes Psalm 56 psychologically revolutionary is David's use of repetition to rewire his thinking patterns. Modern neuroscience confirms that repeated thoughts create neural pathways. The more you think something, the more automatic that thought becomes. David's repetition of "when I am afraid, I put my trust in God, and what can mere mortals do to me?" creates what psychologists call cognitive scripts, automatic responses to fear that replace panic with confidence. The English language patterns in this psalm are incredibly sophisticated. David uses conditional statements: "when I am afraid," rhetorical questions: "what can man do to me?" parallel structure: "in God," "in the Lord," and evidence-based reasoning: "by this I will know." These are advanced techniques that native speakers use to build arguments, express confidence, and influence thinking. Studying these patterns in Psalm 56 will dramatically improve your ability to communicate persuasively in English. David's approach to fear is particularly relevant for modern anxiety management. Instead of denying fear or being ashamed of it, he acknowledges it as normal human experience. But he doesn't stay there. He has a prepared response, a mental script that automatically engages when fear arises. This is exactly what cognitive behavioral therapists teach patients today. Acknowledge the feeling, but have a prepared cognitive response that redirects thinking toward reality-based confidence. The progression from many are attacking me to what can man do to me shows complete psychological transformation. David starts by acknowledging the reality of multiple threats, but ends by questioning whether those threats have any ultimate power over his destiny. This isn't denial, it's perspective. When you're connected to ultimate authority, temporary threats lose their ability to control your thinking and emotions. For English learners, Psalm 56 demonstrates several crucial communication skills: how to express fear without being overwhelmed by it, how to build logical arguments for confidence, how to use repetition for psychological impact, and how to express gratitude and commitment. These skills are essential for anyone who wants to communicate with strength and clarity in high-pressure situations. The phrase "mere mortals" is particularly powerful because it puts human opposition in cosmic perspective. No matter how powerful your enemies seem, they're limited by time, space, knowledge, and mortality. They might seem overwhelming in the moment, but they're temporary beings with limited power. This perspective shift from seeing opponents as all-powerful to seeing them as limited creatures is psychologically transformative. David's experience of hiding among enemies and pretending to be insane represents the ultimate. Powerlessness, having to deny your own identity to survive. Yet from this position of complete vulnerability, he develops unshakable confidence through the repetition of truth about divine support. This shows that confidence isn't based on circumstances, but on what authority you choose to recognize as ultimate. The question, "What can man do to me?" becomes increasingly powerful each time David asks it. The first time it might be wishful thinking. The second time it's growing conviction. By the end of the psalm, it's absolutely certainty. This demonstrates how repetition of truth gradually transforms our emotional reality, moving us from hope to faith to absolute confidence. Modern research on anxiety and fear confirms David's approach. The most effective treatment for anxiety disorders involves repeatedly exposing people to their fears while teaching them to activate competing thoughts about safety and support. David's psalm provides the perfect script for this process. Acknowledge the fear, immediately activate thoughts about divine support, and repeat until the new thought pattern becomes automatic. The beauty of Psalm 56 is that it doesn't promise the absence of opposition or the elimination of scary circumstances. Instead, it promises a way to maintain psychological stability and spiritual confidence, regardless of external threats. This is far more practical than promising that bad things won't happen. It's a realistic approach to maintaining inner strength when bad things inevitably do happen. For anyone facing intimidation, persecution, or overwhelming opposition today, Psalm 56 offers a proven strategy. Acknowledge your humanity and vulnerability, but repeatedly remind yourself of the ultimate authority that supports you. Use David's exact words if necessary. When I am afraid, I put my trust in God. What can mere mortals do to me? Repeat them until they become automatic responses to fear. Transform your internal dialogue from focusing on your enemies' power to questioning whether they have any real authority over your ultimate destiny.